Welcome to another edition of Influence, the global podcast that shines a spotlight on the influencer marketing industry. My name is Gordon Glenister. And for those of you that don't know who I am, I'm a keynote speaker, trainer, and consultant in the sector, and published author on influencer marketing strategy. Influence is also a proud member of the Marketing Podcast Network, where you can listen to other amazing influencer and marketing related shows. But before we start, please don't forget to subscribe to this show just to make sure that you don't miss a future episode. Now, today I'm talking with Scott Eddy, who is a travel expert, TV host, and public speaker in the tourism and hospitality sector. In fact, across all his platforms, he has over 1 million followers. And as someone that's older than 50, like my good self, Scott and I talk about what it takes to be a go-to person in your niche. So I started to ask him a little bit about how his career started. So welcome to another edition of the Influence Global podcast, and I'm really delighted to have a great guest with me today who in our pre-meeting we got on like a house on fire, and I'm sure it's going to be just the same in this session. So a warm welcome to Scott Eddy. Scott, lovely to see you.
Hey Gordon, how you doing?
Yeah, well, remind me, where's home for you?
So home is actually whatever hotel that I'm staying in. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, but I always come back to South Florida between all my trips. So I always stay at a hotel somewhere between maybe West Palm Beach and Miami. Depends on where I have to be, like the meetings or whatever I'm doing in between trips.
Yeah, no, amazing. We've obviously connected through a mutual friend, which is very much in the sort of travel sector. So, what the theme of today's podcast is really all about. You don't have to be 20 something to be influential. You just have to be. You have to, talk with passion, be authentic, be consistent in what you do. So I really want to uncover a little bit more about what Scott Eddy is all about. So maybe let's just start from the beginning and roll back a few years and where tell us a little bit about how you sort of started your career.
So I started my career very much not in this career. I grew up the son of a police officer, so my life was completely mapped out. My father was from Michigan, as I am. He was a Michigan State trooper for 11 years. We moved down to Fort Lauderdale when I was 3. He became a Fort Lauderdale police officer and ultimately a police detective for 11 years. And my childhood was very much like middle school and high school. Any free time that I had, I was at the police station going on ride-alongs, watching interrogations, learning how to give a polygraph, learning how to beat a polygraph,
Oh
taking my
wow.
driver's license test in a police car. Like I was very much a police officer's son, and I was going to follow in my father's footsteps. I was going to ultimately graduate high school, join a police academy, become a police officer, have the 2.5 kids, a white picket fence, retire and die. Like my life was completely mapped out. 3 weeks before I graduated high school, and I already had my date to join the police academy, my father was killed in the line of duty in a plane crash, and it turned my whole life upside down. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea what I wanted to be. I wasn't trained for anything else, but I knew for sure I didn't want to be a cop anymore.
Mm.
Um, After a few months of hemming and hawing and oh, woe is me, my friend suggested that I go to a investment banking orientation, that there was a new firm opening up in Fort Lauderdale that I should go check out. He knew somebody there. He got me an invite, and I went there. I got accepted into the program, and I didn't know finance from a bowl of fruit. Like I was bad in math. I never went to university. I didn't know finance. I didn't know anything. But ultimately, I was accepted and I got training, and I was in investment banking for 10 years.
Yeah.
So in 99, they came out of the office, and it was a Friday. I'll never forget this day. And they said, "We just sold the firm. If you show up on Monday, you're going to have a new owner." And then half the firm resigned, including myself. The guy who sat next to me, his good friend was an expat living in Thailand, and he always used to tell me to come visit. And I was like, listen, I work 90 hours a week. There's no way I could take a 24-hour flight. It's impossible.
Mm.
So when that happened, he called me the next day and he said, listen, You have no job. You got to come and see me right away. It'll change your life. So I booked a 2 week ticket. I left the next day and I never used my return ticket. My mind, my life, my heart, everything exploded when I got to Thailand. I didn't know that there was a city like Bangkok, I'm speaking of, where you could have a massive city, this big metropolitan city, but everybody's kind, everybody's nice, everybody's warm, everybody's friendly. I grew up in very hustle bustle, dog eat dog, I'm going to rip your throat out, like competition. And just to go to that environment from that, it was such a drastic change that it changed my life immediately.
Mm.
And I ended up not using my return ticket and ultimately living in Bangkok for 11 years.
Yeah, which is incredible, isn't it? Because it's such a different type of culture to what you'd
Night
been
and day.
used to, what you'd been used to.
Absolutely.
And what did you learn from that experience? I mean, you say you've been there for sort of a number of years. What did you learn from that?
I learned that it really opened up my eyes to not only the different cultures of the world, obviously, because it's such a drastic culture change going from America to Southeast Asia,
Mm.
and a real, like, this is Bangkok 1999, not 2022.
Yeah,
So it was really a developing country back then. And, the shifts are huge. And it just showed me that, in America, it's all about the more money you make, the more happier you will be, which is the complete false, which should not be preached. It just showed me that everybody that can be happy, everybody can be happy no matter what. And I saw people that have nothing that were the happiest people that I've ever seen in my life,
I
and
can't
it
agree.
just
Yeah.
it
I
just
love,
reaffirmed that.
I love that, Scott. To be honest, sometimes it's just, the two things in life that we should really work towards are inner peace and happiness. Because actually, I like you, I've met tons of people that are, multimillionaires, well, not tons, but a few. Um, and they're just literally, they almost comparing themselves with other millionaires. It's not like they can't get out of this sort of gravy chain, which is a real gravy train rather. It's a real
Yeah.
challenge for them. So then, you're in Asia, and when did you move into the sort of digital space?
So a few years later, when social media came around, on a whim, I set up what came to be the first digital agency in Southeast Asia. And that was when all the hotels were entering the Southeast Asian market, all the crazy cool hotels in Bali that you see on Instagram, Marina Bay Sands in Singapore, when all the Western casinos were starting to be allowed to move into Macau, and all the Thai islands, obviously. And we were the go-to agency for 5 years. We were the biggest, um, building out social media strategy, just doing websites, doing everything digitally. And I just hired really smart people, young people from advertising agencies, and just watched. For
Mm.
5 years, I just watched. So I learned everything you see today from the agency side. And then I sold my agency and built up my personal brand.
Mm.
So
And this is very interesting, isn't it? Because it's a lot about being a great entrepreneur. It's not always getting the weeds. It's having that bigger, bolder vision, and then hiring just great people that are better than you at
absolutely.
delivering it. Yeah, no,
I,
indeed.
I have no ego. I mean, my immediate circle, the people that I work with, my video guys, my guy that does everything else besides video and photography, like digital strategy, paid social ads, like these guys are much smarter than me. They're
Mm.
much more talented than me. They're much better at what they do than I am. I mean, if you're surrounding yourself with people that are minions and their whole job is to just tell you how great you are, just to boost up your ego, you're going to fail so hard in life. You're
Mm.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
you have to fill yourself with people that are smart. Like it's inevitable. When I'm on a trip with my video guys, like we were in Antarctica or we're on a road trip in California, whatever it is, the content that I take on a daily basis and my editing skills, and then what they do on their daily, like is all my ego does. It gets get crushed every day because these guys are just annihilating me in every. But I think it keeps you grounded, and I love it. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. Just keep crushing me and keep being better than me. But we're all a happy family. We
Yeah.
all get along. It's happy competition.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. That sounds brilliant. So you mentioned the word personal brand. Of course, that's very important when it comes to sort of influence. What happened next?
So I basically, so if you look at from the outside looking in right now, you see a social media personality influencer, if you want to use that term. I hate that term, just because it's the mindset is a one trick pony. And but if you're looking from the outside looking in, that's all that I look like. But what that does is that leaves me at the top of the funnel, because that is such an important piece now. And you get all the media, and I get all the exposure, so to speak. And then I take those relationships and pull them in and harness them. And some of these people convert into long-term clients. And then under my personal brand, I run essentially a full service digital agency. So my personal brand is really just the song and dance, the show and tell at the top of the funnel.
Correct.
All the real business gets done underneath: the consulting, the public speaking, the strategy work, the, everything that I do.
Yeah. And why do you think people relate to you?
Because I am real. The biggest compliment, and I receive it a lot, the biggest compliment that I get, and a perfect example is Susan Paul. I don't know if you know Paul as well. I'm sure you know both of them.
Of course. Yeah.
So the biggest compliment somebody can give me is say, "Hey, I've been following you for years, and you're exactly like you are on social media." But the average person has two personalities: who they are in real life and who they are in social life. Why?
Mm.
Aren't you selling a personal brand? And that's not a real person if they're fake. So I'm just all about that real, authentic experience. And I'm just as likely to take a selfie with my niece or a good friend that I'm meeting and posting it on Instagram. And then the next post is like the most beautiful video you've ever seen from my video guys that took 2 weeks to edit.
Yeah.
So I don't mind, like, there's no, having a gorgeous aesthetic Instagram feed does nothing for you. Okay. Having a real feed does everything for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. So, what type of content? Let's just assume that we're talking now to middle-aged guys, who probably in many instances don't identify them. So they might have a lot of knowledge about their particular niche, but perhaps aren't so active on social media. What are the sorts of things that you have done or would advise this type of demographic to do?
So listen, truth be told, the demographic, the demographic 45 to 70 is actually the most active group on social media today. Yeah, there's a lot of people on there that are young. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
But the fastest growing and the best ROI, I might add, that you can do is a Facebook ad. There's no better ROI in advertising right now than a Facebook ad. And what's the biggest demographic on Facebook? It's definitely not 10-year-old kids.
No.
It's the older demographic that has the means.
Mm.
They know what they want, and they're targetable, because when a 20-year-old goes on social media, they open up Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is, they go exactly where they want to go. They see what they want to see, and then they get off. When somebody older goes on, they'll scroll slower, they'll read everything, they'll click on things that says learn more. Like, they really spend the time, and those are the people that you really want to grab. So, what advice I would give, what they should be doing, they should be as active as they want to be. And that's the whole key. How active do you want to be? How active do you want to be that makes you happy? So again, it comes back to the end result. You have to reverse engineer everything. What makes you happy? Is making you happy scrolling and just watching other people on social media? Or is what makes you happy going on there, maybe developing new relationships, maybe building a personal brand so you could start something, maybe launching a new business? Whatever makes you happy, that's the end result. And then you have to find out how to get there.
Yeah. Rather than feeling that you're doing it because you're copying everybody else and you're doing it
100%.
I mean, the only thing I would add to that is the importance and relevance of consistency. So if you're going to do something, it's not just about, oh, I've done a tweet or I've done a LinkedIn post. You know,
Well, that goes to one thing that I always say: either be all in or all out. There's
yeah,
no such thing as being half pregnant.
yeah, yeah,
If you're going to be half in, don't do it,
yeah,
because you're
yeah.
wasting your time.
You are, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And so, what type of content are you finding works well? You mentioned, for example, a quality video that your team has done. Do you measure the analytics that come from all the posts that you do, whether they be,
Yeah, and you want to hear something funny?
yeah,
You want
go
to
on,
hear the craziest thing? What logic would dictate? That's why you can't use logic. What logic would dictate is something that's done by a professional videographer that takes weeks to edit, that you have 4 guys shooting the videos, the color grading is flawless, the editing is, the music, everything's perfect. That would have the best analytics. No, me taking my phone, holding it up, doing a video shaky, and then uploading it right away raw will get 10 times the engagement than that other video every day of the week.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And
You know why? Because people can relate.
yeah, they can relate. Of course they can. And I think this is another issue for we're talking about the sort of older demographic that wants to be more active on social. I think they're paranoid about the camera, the video, the getting everything perfect, having a script. When in essence, if they just said, actually, just be yourself, you're a fun, interesting individual, just be yourself, get your camera out, and when you start to see those storytelling techniques, it's because that's what it is. It's just an insight into somebody's life, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it goes back to the adage that Gary Vee says all the time. Document, don't create. People want to see the process. They don't want to see the fancy video at the end all the time. Yeah, those videos have their place, but I get messages all the time from brands or companies or whatever, and they say, "Hey, see that video that you did in Antarctica, that video you did in California, whatever it is? I want that video for my company. How much?" And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. We can do it. But what are you going to do with that video?" "Well, I'm going to post it." "Okay, what do you want to happen after you post it?" "Well, business will come in." "Why will business come in from you posting a fancy video?" And they have nothing to say. You have to reverse engineer. Yes, there's a place for that in the strategy,
Yeah,
but there's much more to that. How are you going to get ROI from that one fancy video? There has to be a whole strategy leading up to that.
yeah,
Just like life is not perfect, therefore content should not be perfect. Okay, what did we do before you started recording? You were all blurred out, and you said, "Hey, take a look at my background." And what did I say? I said, "Remove the blur, show what's real."
yeah, it's true. Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. No, I agree. I agree. It's fine. Although I was thinking to myself, do I want to look like I'm in a spaceship? But in a
Why
way,
not? It's real.
well, it is real. Yeah, and
It's cool.
it creates. That's true.
Dude, you look like a stormtrooper. This is awesome.
Oh dear, yeah. Well, for those that are on listening to the podcast, you've got to go and look at the video, and you can see what we're talking about now. But that's cool. So what are the lessons that you learned along the way? When you're an entrepreneur, you're a successful guy, you've got bags of energy and enthusiasm, but there will have been some low points. There will have been some moments where you think, oh God, this is hard work. This is getting me down. Or what are
I
the things?
lost every penny that I had twice while I was overseas. Every penny I had.
Really? Wow.
Every penny.
And what? Tell me more about that then.
There was a point where, so I lived in 6 different countries in 17 years. There was a point where I was living in Barcelona and decided to go back up to London. This is when Canary Wharf was just starting to get completed. It was like half done. We were approaching 2008, and it was the end of 2007. And I went up there to start an investment banking firm with a friend of mine who I used to work with in the States. And I was too stubborn to get partners. I put all my cash in. We got everything ready to go, licenses, bond, everything. And maybe a month after we opened up, that's when Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers went out of business and began the financial crisis. and I didn't have any cash. So I didn't know how long we were going to bleed, and I didn't have enough cash for any more than maybe 3 months. So basically pulled the plug and left.
Wow.
And there was another instance just like that, not in the finance world, but you know, money means zero to me. As long as I have enough to do what I want to do, my personal brand and the integrity of my personal brand and the value of my personal brand means everything to me.
Mm.
Um, Money can always be made. You can always hustle and do short-term things and leverage what you have. So I know that money is never going to be an issue for me because I have my personal brand. Therefore, money is never the issue.
Yeah.
So if I go all in every day on my personal brand and just push out as much content and be as real as possible and always make sure that you're growing, always make sure that you're getting the proper media, I think that you're going in the right direction and good things will happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So,
develop the right relationships along the way, just how we met.
absolutely. No,
You
no,
never know.
indeed. So, I mean, in terms of social platforms, I know you're quite active on Twitter, aren't you?
Yeah.
And again, when we're talking about, somebody of our age, it's interesting to see what sort of platforms that we feel happy about when it comes to
Right.
building our personal brand. So, tell us about what you do on the different platforms, and whether
Well,
or not that, yeah, tell us more about
Well, first off, let's comment on what you just said. Makes you feel happy when you're using them. It's you feel happy or sad because you have perceptions about certain platforms.
it.
Okay. People that are older have a problem going on TikTok because it's 8-year-olds dancing.
Yes.
Understand that every platform starts out young and then ages up.
Hmm.
Understand that old people, and when I say old people, I mean age wise, people like us over
Yeah.
50,
Yes.
um, were laughing when Facebook came out because everybody said, oh, it's all kids, it's nothing. But then it aged up.
Yeah.
Now kids won't touch Facebook.
Yes,
And it's
indeed.
all older people keeping up with their grandkids and their great grandkids and their kids and things like that. Instagram, same way. Now a lot of kids won't go Instagram, they only do TikTok. And now TikTok is aging up.
Mm.
So having perceptions, preconceived perceptions about these platforms is 100% wrong. Just throw those things out. The other thing is don't try to form your content according to what you think is well received on that platform. If I do luxury travel and talk about my personal brand and marketing and just being myself on Instagram and Twitter, I'm not going to change my content on TikTok. It might be edited different. It might be shorter. It might have different music. It might be adaptive to that platform's personality because every platform has its own personality. And you might post it a different way, but my content remains the same.
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely.
that's the important part.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's really good to hear. I mean, so sort of lastly, to sort of finish off, where is what future projects have you got planning?
So the funny thing is I never have future goals. I think, in my mind, I think that the more active I am on social media, the more opportunities come my way and the more relationships come my way. And I think people fall into one of three buckets. I think people fall into bucket number one is we meet, we become friends or acquaintances, whatever it is, and we stay that way forever. Bucket number two is we meet, we become friends, we become acquaintances. You introduce me to somebody that we eventually do business, but we stay friends forever.
Mm.
Number three, we meet, we end up doing business together, but we remain friends forever. I am okay any one of those three buckets because it's a win.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I have to say, I
Thanks
love
so
your
much, man.
energy, I love your enthusiasm, and what you've done, and your personal journey is incredible. So, how can people find out a bit more about you on your social channels or website or company? Tell us how to do that.
I am at Mr. Scott Eddy on every platform, and my website's mrscotteddy.com. And remember, kindness doesn't stop at the screen.
Indeed. Lovely. Scott, Eddy, lovely to see you today, and thanks so much again. That's it for another edition of Influence. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and give me your feedback, gordon@gordonglenister.com, or you can follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, where you can also ask me a question. If you're able to give us a 5-star review, we really do appreciate it too. And if you want help in creating an influencer marketing strategy, or you want to join the Influencer Marketing Roundtable weekly event, just head over to www.gordonglenister.com. And if you want to find out about all the other shows that we have, then you can find them on the Marketing Podcast Network. Thanks as always to my producer Neil Whiteside from Freedom One, and until next time, from me, Gordon Glenister, it's bye for now.